Mike Bohn here with the Senior Vice President of Paradigm Sports, Mr. Tim Simpson. And Tim, I think people who are familiar with MMA probably see you around quite a bit, but for those who are maybe not, just tell us, like, how did you get into the sport and to the management side of mixed martial arts?
Yeah, so I've been working with Paradigm for about 7 years now. I started with Audi in 2015 when I came over from Australia. I had a background. I used to be a lawyer, and I had a sports management degree, so I had a background in sports. I was involved in the kickboxing and Muay Thai community in Australia. And when I moved over to the US, that's when I connected with Audi, who's the president and founder, and my partner at Paradigm, and really started from there. You know, I was always very passionate about the sport, and I kind of transitioned my legal background and sports management background into the MMA world, working at Paradigm. You know, Paradigm was a company I was familiar with. I was always admired Audi, and to end up working with him and him becoming, you know, my mentor and my big brother and now my partner has been great.
Yeah, what was the maybe like most surprising thing once you got in? Now, obviously, you said you worked, you know, on the Muay Thai kickboxing side, so you're familiar with combat sports. But to come into mixed martial arts on this level, what would you say was like the biggest adjustment or the biggest thing that caught you off guard, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I really got thrown into the deep end at Paradigm. 2015 was really the inflex year for Conor. You know, the first like full fight I did with the company was Mendes and Aldo. And then I was very deeply entrenched with Conor and his business, working alongside Audi from there onwards. So really got thrown into the deep end early. You know, back then at Paradigm, we were a much smaller company. We were a quick growing company. We only had 7 employees when I started. Now we have over 30 employees. So it was very, very scrappy. We were really just sprinting in one direction back then. So it was a quick adjustment period. Had to learn a lot very fast, but I'm thankful for it. That was really the big thing.
Yeah, and I know Paradigm's evolving beyond mixed martial arts and combat sports, you know, into the many different branches at this point. But I know you're kind of the head man for MMA right now. What would you say are some of the goals for you in the future? I mean, obviously, it's, you know, win championships, win fights, all that kind of stuff. But something that maybe someone would look at as like not a clear thing on the surface.
Yeah, the goal for my department, as you said, you know, Paradigm's now a multi-platform sports business and media company. My purview is the MMA management department, which is, you know, I have myself, and then I have a great team, some other managers with growing client bases as well. So really my goal is to continue to scale the company. You know, we want to remain boutique. You know, our motto for our clients is black belt skills and white glove service. So we want to maintain the culture we've created of having the correct capacity, having the correct number of managers to clients. You know, we have 30 staff members, we only have 74 clients. You know, we don't have 200, 300 clients under management. It's very important that we maintain capacity. So my goal is to scale, but scale the right way. So only scale, you know, we're not going to go out and bring on 100 new fighters if we don't have 3, 4, 5 managers to then service those athletes. So the goal at Paradigm is definitely to keep growing. You know, we've grown a lot in the past 5 years, keep growing, but only grow the right way with the right staff and the right people in place to continue to give that level of service to clients.
You hear, I feel like, more and more fighters saying recently, like, oh, you know, maybe management isn't necessary in mixed martial arts. Like, what are some people really doing? What would be your counterpoint to that, and saying, you know, why is it important to have someone, and especially like maybe a team like yours, in your corner working for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that you hear that, because fighters definitely need representation. I mean, the problem with representation in this industry is there's a lot of bad management. You know what I mean? There's no barrier to entry to be a manager. You know, there's no certification. You don't need any real skills. You know, anyone can say, all you have to say is, that's my manager, and now you're an MMA manager, right? So with that comes a lot of low-level representation. So you certainly do need the right people. You know, there's some fighters can do it themselves, which is great for them. But as your brand and your business continues to grow, you need people that are managing your affairs and representing you and advocating for you correctly.
For sure, and let's talk about a few of your clients. Obviously, kind of the one that stands out to me right now that's scheduled for a fight this year, Israel Adesanya, going to be fighting Alex Pereira. Is this probably one of the easier fights that's had to be made for Izzy? I mean, it seems like it was just inevitable from the moment, you know, they both fought at UFC 276. We got an announcement a few weeks later.
Yeah, that was it was kind of lined up. Izzy's fought at everyone in the top 5, and he's beaten a couple of them twice. So it's really at this stage like who's next up for him, right? And this one was lined up perfectly. Sean Strickland's another client of mine, had a great opportunity in which he was we were told with the win over Pereira we were going to get that title shot. It was lined up perfectly. So Sean stepped up and took a risk against a guy like Pereira, but it was the right fight to take. Sean, when you're one fight away from the title, you got to fight anyone anyway, right? He would have had to fight, maybe it was Whittaker, Vittori, Brunson, Hermanson, whoever it was. He just beat Hermanson, so it was the next fight for Sean. But that lined up the winner of Sean and Alex on the same card as Izzy. Either of them would have been a great fight to make. Obviously, Sean and Izzy had the great back and forth at the press conference. Had Sean beaten Alex, that would have been a super fun fight to make as well. You can just imagine how that would have been to sell. And then, unfortunately for Sean, Alex won, and now there's a fight to sell for Pereira and Izzy based on their background in kickboxing. So, it was I guess a set-up scenario for either Sean or Alex to be next in line. And that's how it played out.
And I know I did that story for Rolling Stone a couple fights ago now, talking about Izzy's star power and all that, and about how, he's just becoming such a more attractive brand and everything. And I think it goes to show the fact that they would entrust him to headline a Madison Square Garden event, which is only kind of the most prestigious spot. What are you kind of seeing out of his growth right now as he continues to hold that belt and rack up defenses and just become a bigger star and name, and not only MMA, but the sports world as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, he's transcended MMA now. He's done that a few years ago, to be fair, but huge amount of opportunities commercially. He's working with major blue chip sponsors and partners for a very long time. We've had opportunities in Hollywood that we've had to turn down based on schedule, etc. But he's the most sought after guy. Outside of Conor, he's really leading the charge in this sport for notoriety, for star power, and it's a credit to him and his personality and everything he's built. He's turns everything he does to gold. He can be a brand ambassador for anybody. He's great on camera, and he just treats people really well. People enjoy working with him. So he treats everyone with respect, treats everyone well. So he's a guy that's always going to grow in star power anyway, just naturally from his own natural charisma, and then obviously what he does athletically is the driver for that too.
What do you see as his evolution maybe in the next year or two? Obviously, you have to keep winning the fights and all that stuff, but as far as maybe like in cage goals, like do you just want him to stay in this division, rack up defenses? Do you think we see maybe a move back up to 205 again? What do you kind of see as the future for him over the next year or two?
Yeah, he's mentioned he wants to go back up to 205, and I think obviously the last time he came up short, but I think he'd be very comfortable in that division again if that's what he wants to do. It's really up to him and Eugene on the athletic side, but I think he has business he wants to attend to at 185 first. He says he wants to fight everybody of his era in that weight class, which he almost has done. Obviously the Pereira fight is meaningful for the backstory they had in another sport. Then there's another few guys that have been real mainstays at middleweight that he wants on his roster as well. I know he wants to make that Strickland fight. I know he wants to fight Jack Hermanson, who's been a perennial top 5 guy for the past 5 years. There's other names at middleweight. He wants to go down as the greatest of all time in that division, and there's opportunity to stay there and keep fighting, but the door's open to light heavyweight, even heavyweight. He's had success at heavyweight in kickboxing too, so he'll handle November, and then as always we reassess after each fight.
He's saying all the right things going into this fight, like he doesn't hold any ill will based off the kickboxing fights. He lets that stuff go. But from what you've seen, maybe behind the scenes, like, is there a personal edge to this fight, would you say?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Like, I believe him when he says he made peace with what happened with Pereira, and it's like, it's easy to be frustrated with the way the second one ended. Like, you watch the first fight, he won that fight. It was a terrible decision. He won that fight, the first one. The second one, he won round 1, 10-8 round 2, he was winning round 3 and got caught, credit to Alex. So it's not like, I think in his heart, it's not like that guy's better than me. You know, he did lose both fights, but it's like I don't feel there's a chip on his shoulder about this guy. You know, he wants to settle it, and he'll certainly shut some mouths, but it's not something that's been eating at him for years. And I've got to get Pereira back. He was happy with never ever fighting Pereira, really, and particularly, you know, had this fight not come together and Sean gone out and beaten Alex. It's cool. He wasn't rooting for Alex because he wanted that revenge. You know, I think he made peace with that a long time ago, and the story is great. And he'll drum up that story, but I don't think it's something that's ever like eaten away at him, and he's always wanted that fight back, anything like that. But now it's here. He's motivated to settle the narrative.
And you mentioned Sean Strickland there. Obviously, he's got a main event coming up with Jared Cannonier. Do you feel like that fight just puts him right back, if he wins, into that title shot? Like, despite the loss to Pereira, he can get right back to that position with the win here.
Yeah, 100%. Because, you know, he goes out and he beats, you know, Israel goes and beats Alex, Sean goes and beats Jared, you know, and then also Jack and Manson has a big fight in December as well. Jack and Sean obviously just fought. Out of those guys in the top 5, top 10, again, speaking about Izzy wanting to fight everyone of his era, Jack and Sean are 2 he hasn't fought yet. They're guys that are credible fighters, top 5 guys. Both of those guys are there for an opportunity too. So, you know, both of them deserve a title shot. And I'm sure both of them will.
Awesome. And you know, speaking of clients potentially fighting each other, you know, we have Mackenzie Dern and Yan Jianan coming up. There's a title fight at 115 on that same card as Izzy. Do you feel like this main event between Mackenzie and Yan, like, is that a title eliminator? Where do you think kind of the stakes are as far as that fight?
I think it's very close to. 115 is kind of wide open at the moment. You know, when you have a new champion, it'll be interesting to see what they do from there. You know, Mackenzie's back on a really good streak. You have to pay respect to Marina Rodriguez, who's right there and has a win over both of those girls. And she's got a fight coming up too. Obviously, respect to the former champ, Rose Namajunas is there. So it's interesting at 115, and it's about making a statement with when, you know, when it's crowded and you're not really sure what's going to happen next, like who's going to make a statement. So both Xiaonan and Mackenzie have an opportunity to make a statement in what's now becoming a top-heavy division. So exciting for both of them.
And another one of your champions, Jiri Prochazka. I heard you tell Ariel Helwani and those guys on the Ringer MMA show yesterday that really no progress as far as like locking down a date. But is it all but guaranteed it's going to be the Glover rematch? Is that the fight we're getting? It's just a matter of when?
Yeah, so nothing has been confirmed like who or when yet, but Jiri came out and expressed he wants to fight Glover. Of course, Glover wants to fight back. From my understanding, that's what the UFC wants. You know, Jiri was really open to fighting anybody. You know, we met with the UFC and Jiri was kind of like, what do you want to do? And you know, it started trending towards Glover. I think Jiri to step up and take that challenge again shows a lot about him. And he said, cool, like if that's what it is, he's all about challenge. He says it, you know, what is my greatest challenge at this stage? And I think that is the fight that will happen. Now we're just kind of closing in on a date for it.
Yeah, and you can, like, when you talk to him, it's clear the performance in that first fight bothers him, and he like wants to, you know, make adjustments, show he can be more dominant and stuff. Has he like made that pretty clear to you behind the scenes that like he was really unhappy with the performance he put to win the title despite getting the win?
Yeah, like even like in the direct aftermath, talking to him inside the cage in Singapore, in the octagon, he was disappointed. Like literally with 30 seconds after winning a world title. So he wasn't happy with the performance. I think when he, you know, it sunk in a bit, he was very proud of himself, and, you know, as awesome as the fight was and how much heart he showed, he doesn't want to have to fight like that. You know, he wants it to be clean, and I think he had a lot of opportunities to finish the fight in a more clean manner, but you got to remember he was 14, 15 months off, uninjured, just waiting for the fight. And I think, you know, ring rust is subjective and everyone's different, but I think just for a matter of your timing and the flow, that time off, you know, may have affected him a little bit, and, you know, a very long training camp, it just takes a mental toll as well. So I think this one, you know, we really want it for the end of the year. I think him being in the octagon more frequently is going to benefit him as well, and he'll get that performance that he wants.
Sure. And 3 more for you. Can you clarify what happened with Cedric Dubé? He was supposed to fight in Paris. He said there was a report he was released. He said he wasn't. Can you clarify what happened there?
Yeah, so it was to do with the commission. I'm not going to share any kind of personal details with Cedric, but although he's only 2-0, that guy is so high level. He's so high level already. Like, he's out there training at SBG, and I'm speaking to John, and like the leaps and bounds he's taken is phenomenal. And he's ready. He's like, even though obviously so much kickboxing experience, only 2 MMA fights, like he's ready to go at the top level. So we're figuring a few things out, and he'll be in there at the top level very soon.
So you can't confirm whether or not he's on the roster right now?
Well, I mean, you're not technically on the roster until you got your first fight, right? So yeah, but we have contracts in place and everything. So we just have to figure a few things out. But yeah, he'll have his spot at the top level for sure.
Cool. And Mohammed Mokaev, obviously, a potential star in the making, super young, tons of potential. What do you kind of see as his timeline going forward? Obviously, he's got a fight schedule, but like going into next year, where do you kind of want to take him? What's the challenge in balancing a guy that clearly has so much potential in a division that's arguably a little bit thin, and maybe not pushing him too fast, and just making sure he develops in the right way?
He's ready to go. As far as pushing him fast, like with that kid, if you said fight Figueiredo tomorrow, he'd do it. And there's no exaggeration with that at all. Like, if he's ready to go at the highest level right now, like this kid is, when you talk about experience, right? He's only had 8 pro MMA fights or 9 pro MMA fights. He's got the 23 amateur, and he's been fighting, all across the world for while his pro career is only 2 years old. He's been going since he was 15, 16 years old, amateurs, as well as huge wrestling tournaments, jiu-jitsu tournaments. So he's ready to go as fast as we can go. The problem has been finding opponents that are willing to go. He had the Cody Durden fight. Obviously that was amazing. Then we tried to turn around with ranked guys right away. No one in the rankings wanted to fight him. They ended up having to sign someone, Charles Johnson, who was in Contender Series, pull him out of Contender Series into the UFC just to find someone to fight Mo. And Charles Johnson is, I think, better than a lot of flyweights. It came as like, a guy on debut. Charles Johnson's really good. Like, that was a much tougher fight than people thought. I think Charles Johnson is going to have a huge amount of success in the division. So there and now and then again off the back of that fight, we wanted to find someone ranked. It's just a hard sell right now. And if I put my shoes of a manager that's getting a call, it's like, hey, fight 21-year-old Mohammed Mokaev, when you got a number next to your name, I'm going, that sucks too. I've been on the other side of that, So as far as moving him, like, he's ready to go as fast as we can. And I think now he gets another, a third win this year. He should be able to move a bit faster, because at some stage he's got to break into those rankings. And there are a lot of guys in the rankings that'll step up and fight him. There was a lot of injuries this time as well, like guys which couldn't get matched up. So he's ready to go. We have until I think end of March 2024 for him to be the youngest champion in UFC history. So that's the goal. The UFC's bought into that. Again, you can move fast at flyweight. So yeah, that's what we're charging towards, and ready to take the biggest possible challenges.
And last but certainly not least, Conor McGregor. Today is the 6-year anniversary of his win over Nate Diaz at UFC 202. He's out there tweeting that he loves fighting, wishing Jose Aldo luck and all that stuff. I guess first on him, he's doing the Roadhouse movie. Can you just tell us how that came together, and how excited I guess he is for that opportunity?
That came together. Acting wasn't something that I think Conor had the very front of his mind right now. He's still a world-class athlete, and his focus has been the best fighter in the world. But as the injury continues to heal and he continues to prepare for a comeback, the timing worked well. So, great opportunity there for do a big Hollywood blockbuster in the meantime, and excited for it. And he's going to kill it. Like, we've done some acting stuff. He's done a lot of commercial shoots, etc. But that guy's going to succeed at anything he wants to do. If he wanted to just park it and become a Hollywood superstar now, he'd do it. He would. So. A fun little venture, and then switching back to climbing the mountain again.
I think a lot of people were wondering if that is going to affect his timeline that he had originally planned to return. What would you say about that? Is it just, as you kind of hinted at there, it fit in well, or did it change things at all?
No, it fits in perfectly. Still on track for a big return next year, but this fits in perfectly in the meantime.
Do you know kind of what the status of his injury is? Like, is he training 100% now, where it's kind of the health-wise as far as the return ability?
Yeah, the leg is still healing. I think there's a little bit more to go on that, but he's been training like a madman, twice a day, every day. He's got his full team out there, the McGregor Fast team. You know, all his health and fitness guys, physios, boxing coaching. Yeah, he's been going hard. He's been training super hard. He's in amazing shape. Just final adjustments to get that leg back to where it needs to be.
Do you think we see him return as a welterweight? I know he's kind of mentioned that. Is that the plan?
Could be either. Could be either. You know, well, I guess assess what the opportunity is at the time, and you know, he's shown that he can make the weight anywhere 55, 70. You know, wherever he wants to go, I think he'll assess the opportunity and go from there.
And from, you know, we get the rare opportunity to sit here with you. What's kind of the opponent selection process when it comes to a Conor McGregor fight? I know the landscape is consistently changing. You can pretty much fight anyone he wants. So, like, what is the process you guys go through, whether it's with Conor or the UFC, to figure out what fight makes the most sense, especially for this comeback?
It really, you know, it's always circumstantial. You know, depending. The first is let's get the timeline of when he wants to fight, and then see what's available. But obviously, work in partnership with the UFC. Conor has never in his life turned down a fight. You know, whoever it is, the hardest challenge, you know, whatever the circumstance, he's never ever turned down a fight. You know, he always seeks out the hardest challenges. So it starts and ends with him, like any athlete. He as you said, he's earned the right to fight, pick his fights and decide what makes sense for him. And again, he just hunts the biggest challenges and never turns down anybody. So the process, I guess, depends on where we're at timing-wise and what he wants to do.
And last thing on him, there's been some reports out there that he has 2 fights left on his contract. Are we about to get into an interesting moment with Conor McGregor and the next fight or two here?
We'll see. We'll see. I'm not sure what exactly. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, it'll be focus on the return. Obviously, we're with the UFC, so I mean, the UFC is his home. It's where he's built his empire. So committed to that, and then whatever the future may hold, we'll go from there.
Awesome. Well, I think I've taken up enough of your time. We touched on plenty of people. Appreciate you, man, and obviously continued success with everything going on.
Perfect. Cheers, Mike. Thank you. Cheers, guys.